others. DJ Ugalele is in the transfer portal. Devin Leary, Spencer Sanders, Keaton Slovis, Graham Mertz, Eli Stowers, and wide receiver Dorian Singer from Arizona.
I think that if I'm
and Yurkovich from Boston College is going to Pitt.
If I'm somebody who needs a one-year fix at quarterback that can get me over the top, I don't think you can do much worse than Devin Leary. Spencer Sanders, there's a lot of places that fit him. That one really surprises me. But let's see, I'm trying to think of who else. Keaton Slovis, he's going to have to go down. He's not a Power 5 quarterback. Eli Stowers needs to go somewhere where he can actually play at A&M. And the receiver, Singer from Arizona, is probably going to be one of the more sought-after guys.
Yeah, I think we could probably sit down and use some extra time with some of these guys later on.
We will. But I mean,
this is like a bunch of names all at once. But, I mean, Devin Leary's obviously a very capable player. When he got hurt, NC State was not nearly as good as they were when he was healthy. So he'll definitely be, wanted. Spencer Sanders could deserve his own segment, given that we've watched him for the last 4 years in the Big 12. He needs to get healthy, obviously. But he'll be a no-doubter at the top of a lot of boards because of his athleticism and experience and skill set and all those things. I think he'll shoot to the top of, not the very top, but near the top of the quarterback portal rankings just because of what he's done at this point. Keaton Slovis, I don't know. Yurkovich, like you said, I mean, there's that Pitt connection there, so that makes sense. He's going back home. And I think that's an interesting pickup for Pitt, but that's not a surprise that happened pretty quickly because there's just logical connections there. Donovan Smith's leaving Tech. That's not a big name, but, for folks who watch Big 12 ball, that's an interesting name. I could see him dropping down a level just based on what we saw, but he's a good player, and that's of note because they did use him in some special packages once he lost the starting job. But, yeah, Spencer Sanders is the big shoe to drop for me today, although Leary's up there. And
Ugalele?
DJU, Uiagalelei. But, yeah, he lost his job on Saturday. I mean, he officially lost his starting job to the Texan in Cade Klubnik. So I think Klubnik will be their guy moving forward. I don't think there's much doubt about that. I think that there was a lot of people going, why did it take this long? But it's not like Klubnik in his previous appearance lit the world on fire. I don't know if people weren't watching earlier this season or not, but when he did come in, it's not like he just took the job and ran away and they're like, no, let's give it back to DJ. It's like, no, he didn't do enough to just secure it, and they went back to DJ. And, well, unfortunately, he's been pretty much the same guy, and he's okay to great at times, and then he's just not very good at times either. Or, it's a very mixed bag with him, I think is fair to say, and not what was necessarily projected as the next great big thing at Clemson quarterback.
You mean like the way that we looked at Quinn Ewers or others said about Ewers? I think they're both young,
he was not Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
He was not that level of good. But yeah, he's a solid player that I'm sure will have plenty of suitors. But it was just time for Clemson, I think, to make a move.
He looked better this game than he did when he came in an emergency type setup to try to give him a spark a little bit earlier in the year. Okay, now what?
On DJU, Dabo Swinney is loyal to a fault. I mean, that's one of the things we talk about. He's very much, he sticks to his plan, and when he hires coaches, most of the time it's promoting from within. If you're the guy, you're the guy. He's going to stick with you, through the rocky times because that's what he believes in. But look, this is not the first time that he's hesitated to make a quarterback move that was ultimately beneficial to him. He really slow played Deshaun Watson because I think because he is very old school. He's there and wrapping his head around playing a true freshman wasn't there for him
What about Aranda with Charlie Brewer and Blake Shapen? Even though, some of them are just that loyal.
Yeah, so you have this tie. It's not an uncommon thing, but he's got a history of being slow to the trigger. And really, DJU didn't have a great season, but Clemson was 9-0 at one point. So you're not going to bench the quarterback when he's 9-0. And then they got walloped by Notre Dame. They lost that game to South Carolina. And clearly at that point, there was some inward looking, but they weren't ready to do that. He played poorly at the beginning of the ACC championship game. Cade Klubnik comes in, and now his story really begins at Clemson.
And in a down year, they still win more games than most, and they still end up winning
11-2
ACC title. So I mean, so much for a down year. But I do understand with the bar where it is. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a move that was a long time coming, based on sort of how this season played out. And to see him enter the portal as quickly as he did, I think just further reinforced that. So, yeah, he'll definitely have some suitors, but it was time at Clemson.
All right, I want to read one super chat, but before we do, there's 2 or 3 more player personnel type decisions. Anthony Richardson leaving Florida for the NFL draft, skipping the bowl game. Smith and Jigba at Ohio State leaving for the NFL draft. Michael Penix, though, Jr., the quarterback at Washington, is coming back for another year after a spectacular year. A spectacular year for Washington, and the Huskies, of course, right now are 10-2 heading into their bowl game.
Well, Anthony Richardson's not a real surprise. I mean, there was a lot of scuttlebutt about that as the season, went on along. And man, he started off like a man on fire, like at the very beginning of the year. Remember, there was Heisman talking like week 2. It was crazy how he just sort of burst onto the scene. And then obviously things sort of evened out for Billy Napier's Gators, but Richardson's obviously immensely talented. The NFL likes what they see clearly, and he's gotten that message, and he's decided to go, dip his toes in the water. So I don't think that comes as a shock. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I mean, he's basically been sitting out all year to prepare for the NFL draft and avoid injury and whatnot. So that's really not a surprise.
He can't play. The doctors haven't cleared him to play the ball game anyway, too. So.
Yeah, you're right. It's an injury. But, I mean, he's been out all year and waiting to, go to the NFL draft. And I read somewhere thought of what if he could return for the playoff? And it's like, at this point, why would he even do that? Even if he was able to, why would he even risk that? So that's not a surprise whatsoever. And then who was the third one that you mentioned? Oh, yeah, Penix coming back. I mean, yeah, that's massive for Washington. He was great this year. Really turned their program into one of the more fun watches and one of the more improved teams in the country and more exciting teams out there in the West. And I'm looking forward to seeing him back because he did some great things for the Huskies and really is a fun player to watch.
Super chat, and